Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
And I'm Caleb Terrence.
I almost feel like when we come off with some sort of good energy, or if I'm coming off with good energy, you make sure to hit the like unrecord button so that you just want to bring me down each time that we do the introduction.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What?
I fucking hate you.
All right, what do we got
Well, there's
today,
the
Jordan?
energy.
What do we got right now?
Let me tell you, man.
Sorry, my mind is elsewhere.
It shouldn't be.
I'm sorry.
This is your job now. This is work.
It's not, though.
This is work.
It's not at all.
You're an unpaid intern. But I'm still taking your content.
It's not a job,
and
it's
making
an
it mine.
internship. So
It's spooky season. That means pumpkin beer or cider in
that
this
was
case.
horrible.
Do you want to try
you
it?
can't just shift topics like that in conversation. It makes people like uncomfortable, especially like if they can't even see us or what
It's
we're
called
doing.
the segue. Oh,
That's not.
I don't know. You
No,
want to try it?
No, the purpose of the segue is to have like an actual transition instead of an abrupt like shift. Jordan, this
I
bit's
don't
getting
know.
old.
Pumpkin cider is not.
We're tasting pumpkin cider today.
I'm tasting pumpkin cider. Did you want to try it?
I mean, yeah, I'll
It's-
have a come on,
give it a
fucking
little.
taste.
It's
Another reminder that I'm about to be outside in the fucking rain for the next 6 months.
I know,
I
but
mean,
it's tradition. I love that you do the hand wave like a girl that just got told like really bad news. Just
I'm keeping it
oh.
in, man. Like, dude, that's actually like, I mean, I've been drugged to a pumpkin patch and had some, pumpkin spiced hard cider before.
Yeah.
That tastes.
This was made in a factory and not in a barn.
That straight tastes like ball sack.
That's why I'm into it.
The aftertaste of the Two Towns Cider House limited edition pumpkin spice.
Let's not tell people what it is.
Is of balls.
This is gonna go as well as the Mountain Dew.
So like, it's the wet dog aftertaste that comes.
I'm cutting this out
from some. Why, Jordan? There's no need to cut any Mountain Dew thing out. There's no need to cut any Two Towns. There's no need to cut any
I
review.
don't want to get sued.
You think someone's gonna sue Caleb Can't Read?
Take us off the top of the mountain where we're currently at. Yeah,
We're just defaming them in front of all like 200 people.
libel, or is it the other
Libel?
thing? Hearsay? What's the other
slander?
one? Slander. It's slander.
Okay.
It's libel if
yeah,
it's written.
the aftertaste of the Two Towns limited edition pumpkin spice cider is of genitals.
Well, speaking of genitals, that's not my
Meanwhile,
segue.
the what do we have here?
The Bowie Red Ale.
Yes, the Bowie Red Ale is really fucking good.
Let me try it.
No, fuck you. Get your own beer.
But I like red.
I know you do. So
Oh, you're so
hey,
cruel.
so picture a red beer. Picture it.
Uh,
That's what it is.
damn, that's good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, Caleb.
Actually, I was so offset by the taste of your shitty cider that you chose to purchase in the spirit of the season that I don't want your mouth anywhere near my alcohol. I fear that it will ruin my tall boy.
I'm going to taste it on your lips later, you fool.
Oh, God.
I wonder how many people think that we're a couple.
I don't need to.
Just, foregoing any episodes that we may have talked about our spouses or anything like that. It just goes straight into, I think they're a gay couple that do a podcast together.
So there's easier and more pleasant ways to taste balls than the Two Towns pumpkin cider.
One of them is just getting Caleb
One of them
enough.
is just tasting balls. More efficient, probably cheaper.
Well, let me ask you, Caleb.
What's up?
What's the drunkest you've ever been on Christmas?
On Christmas?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure I've been blacked out on a Christmas at some point.
it had to have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get started, shall we?
Okay.
And I don't want you to worry. We are starting with the dad.
Wait, what's the drunkest you've been on Christmas?
Somebody gifted me, it was whatever this amount is, like a big bottle of beer. I don't know what you call these. But it was...
22.
Okay. It was a stout that was cast in wild turkey barrel, which I'm not a fan of wild turkey, but its barrels are apparently amazing. And it is the warmest feeling when you drink that bottle. And just, I went to sleep. I slept through most of the day, and it was terrific.
That's the drunkest you've been on a Christmas?
Yeah, no, I'm actually very tactful.
Are we talking Christmas Eve or day?
A day.
Oh, during the day.
Is this a different story for you?
Yeah, I don't think I've been blacked out drunk on Christmas Day.
No, you're just prepping the night before for having to see your family in the morning.
That and just enjoying that I'm probably not going to work the next day.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that's a good one.
I love that.
Given, might as well spend the day not resting and feeling like death.
I do not give a shit about Thanksgiving, like holiday, anything about it. We never really celebrated it, but goddamn if I was not going to fight for my right to not work that day.
Your family didn't cook, did they? That's why you don't like cooking now.
No, my dad's a wonderful cook.
Oh, really?
He's really fucking good at it.
Sure about that?
I mean, like chef quality.
I mean, he's a honky, so I don't believe you, but...
That's fine. What would you know? Puerto Rican food sucks.
Puerto Rican food's pretty good. We just went and had it. It was wonderful.
Just tired of beans and rice. Well, let's
Those
get
are
started,
really
shall
good
we?
beans and rice. Fuck you. Beans and rice were the
I
best
don't care
part.
for plantains. There,
You
I
don't
said
care
it.
for plantains?
I just don't care for plantains.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want you to worry. We are going to talk about the subject of today's episode.
Plantains
We're going to
cooked
start.
in what way?
Anyway,
You've
the
hit a
way you
nerve.
make them, they're terrible. I don't care.
Oh,
No,
man.
no, I'm kidding.
You don't...
No, don't cry.
I've made you them so many times. You just lied to me all those times I fried you up plantains.
I looked you in the eye, unblinking, and I said, "This is so good, Caleb."
Babe, thank you so much. And I was a fool. There I was, blacked out on Christmas, making you plantains in your old house.
I didn't ask you to do it naked. You chose that way. You
You
chose violence.
set the stage for your deceit.
And I don't want you to worry. We are going to start with the subject's father first, okay? I want you to get the whole backstory because I know you love it. I know you need it.
I don't.
John
I
Dickens.
fucking don't.
John Dickens was born August 21st, 1785, somewhere in England. He married his wife, Elizabeth Barrow, on June 13th, 1809, when he was 25 and she was 19. Together, they would score 8 kids.
I mean, that's probably
That was probably pretty
that's one of the
standard.
that's one of the least offensive age gaps we've mentioned on this podcast.
Yeah, I think our first episode was a teenager falling in love with a 40-year-old or
It's
something.
never good with writers. Anything involving
No.
them, or even just back in the day.
Yeah, honestly. Well, together, they would score 8 kids. Their first was Frances Elizabeth Dickens in 1810, whom everyone would simply know as Fanny. But a couple years later, on February 7th,
We
1812,
got another Fanny, huh?
yes, in the town of Portsmouth, on the island of Portsea, they'd have a son, and the subject of today's episode, Charles John Huffam Dickens. Huffam on the Dickens.
Huffam Dickens.
Huffam Dickens.
Huffam Dickens.
Huffam Puffam Dickens. Now, the Dickens family would continue to grow, and as an office clerk for the Royal Navy, John found it difficult to accommodate them.
Kind of sounds like a Star Wars name.
Slut Glubbo.
Huffam.
John's job forced him and his family to move all over the country, which was difficult on his finances. But it wasn't just the moving that did it. As Charles would later write, his father was, quote, a jovial opportunist with no money sense. John sold the furniture, the silverware, literally anything he could to try and get by. And it was a constant battle where both parents were more focused on their finances than they were on their children. As Charles put it, he was, quote, a very small and not overly particularly taken care of boy.
Well, I mean, like, you know, I mean, the alternative would be like, hey, we're hanging out with your kid, but you know, you don't have any like food or shelter or anything.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get to the
Okay.
to the alternative right now.
Oh shit! All right. Just real passive aggressively, like, okay, we're gonna spend time with you guys. We're not gonna do fucking anything but hang out with you.
On February 20th.
Dad, stop! It's been 2 months. I understand now. Oh no, family's what's important.
It's 3 months.
Not hunger. Right?
On February 20th, 1824, John Dickens was arrested for an outstanding debt of 40 pounds and 10 shillings owed to a baker.
Did he gamble?
Owed to a baker? I don't know, but...
I don't know. Well, yeah, if you spend all your fucking money gambling, then you will
to a
end
baker.
up...
Yeah.
No, you will end up owing money for food.
Yeah,
If you spend your real money and then have to borrow it for the...
He really probably was, honestly. And I have no idea how much 40 pounds and 10 shillings is today, but $40 isn't anything to scoff at now, so I'm guessing it was probably close to like $1 billion. Now, the prison he was sent to was a notorious one called Marshalsea. The prison was built all the way back in 1373, and at first it was kind of a halfway house. You would report to the prison at night, but during the day, you could leave to work off your debts.
So it was, okay.
There was even a restaurant and a prison bar.
Prison bar?
Yeah, which I think is a great idea.
Can I get you guys back for this on Friday?
But soon, Marshalsea became a for-profit prison, where not only did the prison spaces become cramped and illness ran rampant, but there were 8 to 10 prisoners dying per night, and you had to pay rent to be there. Lots of torture, too, if you got too poor, like thumb screws and everything.
Wait, at the debtor's prison?
Yeah.
But they let you go during the day.
No, that was back in the day, but eventually they were like, nope, you have to stay here, work off your debts somehow, probably basically ransom you. And if you don't do it, then we're going to torture you. Also, we're not taking care of anyone. This is built like a fucking Manila prison, and 8 to 10 people are dying a night. Cool.
Damn, all right.
Yeah. Old school English prison. When Dickens later incorporated Marshalsea Prison into his stories, it's said that he didn't exaggerate any of it, but actually downplayed the horrors he witnessed instead. Because if he told the truth, it would make the story too unbelievable.
Try me.
Well, 2 months later...
There's no end to how dumb of shit I will believe.
You're going to get an April Fool's story eventually, I'm sure.
It's fine. I oftentimes am scared of, like, friends I know that I rely on to teach and show me things that I don't, just really taking advantage of that and teaching me some fucked up shit for fun.
Yeah, it's because your parents did that shit.
No, they didn't. They'd have to be smart to do that.
Caleb, what are fajitas?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, we're not going into it.
Did we ever explain that on
Caleb,
the podcast?
Let me give you a real short, quick version of it.
I feel like we've said this.
Caleb's mom told him that fajitas, when he asked what they were as a child, were an animal that they kept in the back, especially for when people order fajitas, and then they kill it there on the spot so that you get it super fresh. And he believed that until he was way too old to believe that.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up, dude.
Yeah. So do I think you have a mistrust of your folks? Yeah.
Just everyone.
Yeah.
My issues of trusting people stem from a fucking fajita joke?
There's no way it began there.
Don't have kids, man. Like, no one. Don't, like...
Well,
I can't even... Like, I would do that to someone, like...
Yes, you carry what's called the cycle of violence, and you should not breed. Well, 2 months later, in April of 1824, John's wife Elizabeth opted to join her husband, as well as their 4 youngest children, Alfred, Frederick, Harriet, and Letitia, leaving just 14-year-old Fanny and 12-year-old Charles at home. But with both parents at Marshalsea...
Wait. Go over the names again one more time. Sorry.
Alfred, Frederick, Harriet, and Letitia.
What?
I did think Letitia was a little bit of a left field one there, too.
I'm sorry.
But with both parents at Marshalsea, it meant that Charles would have to find work. His siblings at Marshalsea were far too young, and the eldest child, Fanny, was still going to the Royal Academy of Music, so she wasn't able to. Which, yeah, she still managed to attend a very prestigious academy during all of this, which I'm sure ate up funds. But I guess it's just one of those things where if it looked good for the kid with the most promise, they just kept at it. She did great, by the way. Actually learned piano from one of Beethoven's former pupils. Regardless, that left the 12-year-old Charles to find work. His mother, Elizabeth, took him out of school, sold his beloved books, and sent him to work in a factory, something which he says he never forgave her for. Among his prized books were some by Shakespeare, whom Charles would use as an influence for almost everything he ever wrote. Now, the factory Charles worked at was by the docks of the Thames in London, called Warren's Blacking Warehouse. According to Charles, the warehouse was in a constant state of disrepair. The wood was sunk, there were leaks, and of course, it was swimming with shrimp rats? Ship rats.
Shrimp rats.
Eat us, no!
They're like normal rats, except they're greasy and pink.
So these ship rats, they also did not give two goddams about how close you got. So you had to work beside them like they were your fucking coworkers.
Maybe. I mean, that's kind of the same thing with, like, geese, you know?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to work beside geese either, though.
Yeah.
They're also violent.
No, they need to get checked is what I'm fucking saying.
Yeah.
Like, for a little bit, like, just, like, 1 year. Just, like, 1 year of, like, hey, like.
Just, what? Just start hitting them and hope they teach it
How
to
many
the
Canadian geese you think you could take?
Oh, good question. That's going to take far too long for this podcast.
Let's say, okay, and let's say you have on, like, a motorcycle helmet.
Okay. Wearing shorts, though. I want to
motorcycle helmet and a cup.
Okay, yeah. But, no cup.
Motorcycle helmet, no dick out for this.
No, I'm not
those
saying
things
that.
Are fucking, like, those things are crotch level.
Yeah.
And if one of them fucking snagged onto that would actually be pretty, like, I would be pretty jarred, and I feel like they would overtake me.
Yes.
If one grabbed my dick.
Yes. It sounds like you're wanting to segue into...
Fighting geese, yes.
No, into what it feels like to have a goose tug on you.
That would hurt. You want to have a silly goose tug on you?
Quit goofing.
But no. Seriously, how many do you think you could take?
I don't know. Probably like 5 or 6.
5 or 6, that's it?
I don't know. I've never been in a fight with a goose before, with an animal of any size.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like you could really, like, that's not like...
to be fair, they have the long... look, coming from a farming family, I know that in order to kill a goose, you just grab it by the base of the skull, and you just swing it around, and it breaks their neck and kills them.
And I'm not even saying you have to kill all of them. You just have to win the fight.
I would do that, though. And that seems like, I mean, especially if I were to back up and they start forming a V pattern, you start breaking necks one by one. And
if every flock...
I go until I get tired. So maybe 35.
If every flock experiences somewhere in their little genetic memory that, yes, one of us can pick them up and beat them with their own kind, then maybe they'll be, a little more inclined to fuck off when we're just, like, walking down the sidewalk.
You want to form a Hunger Games for geese?
No. I'm saying, like, I would just like to instill a little bit of fear there. They're too bold.
Well, Charles's job was to put labels...
Like these rats, excuse me.
Charles's job was to put labels on pots of shoe polish. Quote, first with a piece of oil paper and then with a piece of blue paper, to tie them round with a string and then to clip the paper close and neat all round until it looked as smart as a pot of ointment from an apothecary's shop. Now for little Charles, he was working day and night with barely any room for rest, but he would still manage to visit his family every Sunday until he found his own lodgings closer to the prison, where he would be able to at least have breakfast and dinner with them now as well. Remember, he's fucking 12. Altogether, the Dickens were in Marshalsea for only 3 months, as John's mother had died, leaving him an inheritance of £450. Now, when the family...
How much is that in today's money?
I don't give a shit.
Oh,
now, Enough. Now, when the family was released, they opted to move in with their son, Charles, who was living in a boarding house with a family friend. And here, Charles asked if maybe he would be able to go back to school. Now the family's out of prison, and the inheritance could at least afford some tuition. But his mother, Elizabeth, was quick to dismiss the idea. Quote, I never afterwards forgot. I never shall forget. I never can forget that my mother was warm for my being sent back. This seems to be the focal point for Charles's later attitude toward women, and his views that men should be the ones to always rule the household. So Charles would continue working at the Warren warehouse for another few years. If you know anything about Charles Dickens, you know his views on child labor laws.
Did you already drop that it was Charles Dickens?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is his dad. No, I'm kidding.
Fucking spacing bad. All right, cool. Sorry, everyone. It's been a busy day.
All right, hang on. Let's start over.
All the way over?
Welcome to Caleb Carey.
Do you want to pause? We can just start over that way.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't give a shit about you. All right.
Ugh. You're not serious about cutting out bad reviews of products on this podcast, are you?
Probably not.
Okay, because that's fucking
Yeah, I'll honestly do
ridiculous.
it just if we go on too long.
It's not... Yeah, okay, fair. Well, don't
worry if it's gold, baby. I ain't cutting it out. Honestly, if anything, I cut out the... What? What?
I didn't know I wanted to be talked to like that until this moment.
Did I make a move?
I didn't know that deep down I wanted to be a starlet trying to make it in Hollywood. And how easily I could be swayed into the dark side of the industry.
Shut up and do your dick dinger. All right. Whew. So Charles would continue working at the Warren Warehouse for another few years. If you know anything about Charles Dickens, you know his views on child labor laws, and it was his time spent here that was the defining reason for this. When the company moved to the inner city, it was Charles and a few other boys that worked next to a window facing the street, where people would often come stare at them while they worked, like the people making Xiaolin Bao at Din Tai Fung. Leave them the fuck alone. But yes, Charles said the experience of being watched like an animal was a new low for him. Now, although his mother would try to doom him to a life of work, Charles continued to champion his own education, and eventually, in March of 1827, at the age of 15, his parents would send him to the Wellington House Academy in Camden for a period of about 2 years. However, according to him, the school was just the cheapest option his parents could find.
Was that like a 2-year GED program equivalent back in the day, pretty much?
Good
Kinda
question.
sounds like it.
Probably.
How old is he at this point again?
15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Checks out.
However, according to him, the school was just the cheapest option his parents could find, and the education was bad, the facilities were bad, and the teachers were abusive. But just a couple months after he began at Wellington House, Charles would get a job working in an attorney's office in the Court of London for about a year and a half before becoming good enough of a reporter that he was going across the nation to cover election news after he'd graduated. So he's like 17 at this point. Mm-hmm. He earned at least a decent enough income here that he was able to hit the theater every day, where he found himself to have a very decent memory, being able to recite entire monologues from the plays he'd seen. Eventually, Charles figured that with his great memory, along with a form of shorthand he'd learned that would allow him to jot down info quickly, he should become a freelance reporter.
Genius. Everyone knows Charles Dickens, the famous freelance reporter.
I think at his age, I want to be an alligator wrestler. Yeah. For the next 4 years...
Man, at his age, everything was like shifting for me very quickly.
I mean, at his age, he was probably like being made fun of for not having 4 kids already, you know?
Oh, yeah. At his age and his time.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, anybody like in our time at that age was just like, yeah, I have no idea. I would just like to eat.
Mm-hmm. like just waiting for the next coom.
Whoa.
He's 17. For the next 4 years, Charles Dickens worked alongside his uncle, who actually was a reporter, as they wrote articles about court proceedings for their local newspapers. During this time, in 1830, Charles Dickens met and fell in love with a woman named Maria Beadnell. She was a couple years older than him. Maria's
boy.
Yeah, starting early. Maria's parents, though, were not thrilled about Charles. Maria's dad was a banker, and he thought a reporter was too lowly a position for his daughter. But Charles assured him he didn't want to be a reporter either. In fact, he wanted
He's 17 and doesn't own land?
No, of course not. He wants to be an actor. And as we've seen in past episodes, this did not reassure Mr. Beadnell.
Yeah, people did not.
No one likes a fucking actor.
Yeah, throughout history, and even even though the payoff was more obtainable back in the day, right? It was still like much less respected.
It's so weird. People were just like, ew.
like the payoff's really big now, but if you meet somebody and they're like, I'm going to be an actor, you're like, yeah.
Get a real job like cum mopper. Like, you fucking idiot. Like, go scoop shit out of the fucking tank.
This guy's too good to mop cum. This guy thinks he's too good to mop cum, everybody. Fancies himself a thespian.
Man, it's really turning out like Dewey Cox, you know?
Dewey indeed.
On Charles's 21st birthday, on February 7th, 1833, he threw a small party where he invited Maria as well as her parents. When Charles...
Holy shit.
Dork energy.
What a different fucking time, dude. Can you imagine inviting
your girlfriend's fucking parents over to your birthday party, your 21st birthday party? Like, boy, by the end of the night, I'm going to give you at least 8 reasons for her not to be with me. Such a bad idea. But I'm sure back then there was no, like, age limit to drinking, you know? It's not like it was the
it's not
momentous
just that.
occasion it is here.
I don't think there's a time period where, young adults partying was more appropriate for parents being around. Like, I don't think that's a thing, man. I think it's probably
20s,
consistently pretty fucking wild. Like, not a good.
I loved having you as a friend when I was that age, because I was still living at home. You weren't. You were living with the other derelicts, and it was like, what a perfect place for me to put a hole through walls and throw bottles. Like, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
It's like a playground for adults.
Adults. Yeah, okay.
Adults. Legally.
Yeah, no. In the eyes of the law.
In the eyes of the law, we all could have gone to real boy jail.
Prison, even.
When Charles expressed his feelings for Maria, she insulted him.
We honor our dead.
Huh?
What? Go ahead.
When Charles expressed his feelings for Maria, she insulted him, calling him, quote, just a boy. Ooh.
Yeah.
But she's an older woman, so I'm kind of like...
How? You said a couple years.
Yeah, I know, but it's like...
Was that make her like 24?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're not a real man? Okay.
Not a real girl. Whatever. Later that year, as much as Charles wished to continue their relationship, the Beadnells sent their daughter to school in Paris, where Charles wouldn't hear from her for another 22 years.
Oh.
She will return on episode 2.
Why would you ruin it like that?
Sorry. You're not going to remember her next episode either, though.
You could have surprised me.
I could be lying to you.
Maybe.
But Charles Dickens would pursue...
Anybody could be lying to me.
Eat your fajitas, Caleb.
What's in this beer?
Oh, that's a special beer they make with a dude out back peas in it. Whenever you order it. But Charles Dickens would pursue his dream of acting, becoming a member of one of the world's oldest clubs, the Garrick Club, though at this point it had been newly founded in 1831. Its purpose was to, quote, tend to the regeneration of the drama. As such, A.A. Milne, H.G. Wells, even J.M. Barrie were all members at one point or another. And Dickens worked his way up too, networking enough that he was going to be auditioned by 2 famous actors of the day. Unfortunately, on the day of the audition, Charles came down with a cold and had to reschedule, which they did, but it would be a while before they would find time to audition him again. In the meantime, Dickens' career as a journalist was blossoming, and he soon got offered the chance to write filler stories for the newspaper as well. Anonymously, Dickens would write these silly little tales of things he'd seen, all made up, of course, starting with his first piece of fiction, A Dinner at Poplar Walk. Appearing in the December 1833 issue of the monthly magazine. And soon enough, he was signing his short stories as Boz, B-O-Z. Boz.
Boz?
Balls. No, it was a pet name he had for his younger brother. Charles would call him Moses after a character from a book they liked, though if you said the name with a head cold, then it would come out like Moses.
They liked the Bible?
No, it wasn't that. It was something that I didn't bother to write down because it sounds so fucking boring.
Damn, Jordan. Boring. Like,
I'm hating.
Boring like someone's fucking family lineage 5 generations back that you've included in like fucking 10 of our goddamn episodes.
It's interesting.
That's interesting. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
This was just a story about a killer on horseback. It's not even cool.
Yeah, no,
It's
my
dumb
bad.
shit.
You know, I'm not an intellectual, so I don't really fucking understand what's interesting here. I guess you're the judge of that. So, yeah, I guess we'll just, yeah.
I am. As such, Dickens shortened the name to just Boz.
You know, whatever Charles Dickens's, literary influences were, and something that would have, been enough to get a nickname for his, siblings, surely wasn't an interesting book that should have been mentioned when we're talking about him.
Now, you see, he called himself Boz because he would then be able to write whatever he wanted, no matter how silly the tale may be, without consequence of his much more serious career in journalism. Huh? Speaking of which, his father, John, saw how well his son was doing and got into the reporting game himself, though this turned out to just be part 1 of a 2-part scam. The idea was that John would get in tight with his son's friends and bosses, and then he'd ask them for money.
Brilliant.
Genius.
Brilliant. So I've been gambling.
Yeah. As far as I know, it didn't really work, but he just kept doing it and did nothing but embarrass his kid. Anyway, eventually, these tales by Bowes were so popular that they were collected into a 2-volume set in February and August of 1836 called Sketches by Bowes, with his friend George Cruikshank illustrating each chapter. While I don't have the numbers to say how well the book sold, it seemed to Charles that this was his true calling, and when his chance to audition yet again came underway, he canceled the appointment as his new career was coming to fruition as a writer. Now, before Sketches by Bowes had even come out, Dickens's boss, the editor of the Morning Chronicle, decided on launching an evening edition of the newspaper as well. I'm assuming called the Evening Chronicle. He invited Dickens out to his place to see what he could contribute, specifically wanting his Sketches by Bowes series to be published in that edition. The 24-year-old Dickens was thrilled, not just because his boss would sometimes have his friend over at his place, a man by the name of Walter Scott, author of Ivanhoe, but also because of his boss's 3 daughters, not least of which was the 19-year-old Catherine.
Don't
19.
Don't just say Catherine.
What's the word? Nubile. 19-year-old Catherine.
Don't do the voice. Just say the. Don't do the voice if you're gonna say the 19 part. It's weird.
Okay, no, he you're right.
It's
he
weird.
went to
We're
go
in our
see
30s. It's fine.
Yeah, he liked seeing the 19-year-old Catherine.
You could just.
How's that? Is that better?
It's better. It is better, but I mean the bar was really low there. So,
you mind picking up that bar for me, Catherine?
She could be any age at that point. If we didn't know she was fucking 19, weirdo. Even if he's like fucking 23 at this point. Okay, you're 30. We don't do
24.
that. 24.
Anyway. Yeah, no, it's not bad.
It's the same age gap from earlier, so.
Yeah, true. It was 25 and 19, so it's a little less.
I mean, it's still kind of,
I know.
But
in today's age, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, just like the Garrick Club, which held playwrights and actors, Dickens soon joined a local hangout for authors and artists. And it was here that Dickens would strike a deal from publishers Chapman and Hall about a project they had in mind. You see, there was this illustrator by the name of Robert Seymour who already had some renown. He's done some illustrations for the classics like Shakespeare's and Cervantes, but lately he'd been producing comics for a humor magazine called Figaro in London to a lot of success. He had some of the same friends as Dickens as well, like Cruikshank, the guy who did the illustrations for Sketches by Bowes. But then the editor of Figaro in London got into financial trouble, so he couldn't pay Seymour what he owed him. When Seymour left the paper, the editor started publicly slamming him in his magazine, calling him Shortshanks. Like, yeah, he's just like Cruikshank, but he falls short. Ha-ha!
Aha, gotcha. You fell short on paying
Son
me,
of a
jackass.
bitch.
Fuck off.
And then he replaced him with Cruikshanks' brother, saying like, this is a much better upgrade, huh? It's practically the same thing. However, in recent years...
Brother took the job even though he knows he sometimes doesn't pay people?
Yeah.
Whoa.
However, in recent years, Robert
must
Seymour...
have not fucking liked his brother. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right. Robert Seymour had created a series of lithograph prints called Sketches by Seymour, which were very popular. Well, Seymour went to publishers Chapman and Hall with an experimental idea. He would create a series of goofy-ass pictures and that a writer would then have to link together using a story. This was actually how the Scrappy-Doo comics were made in the 60s. They would create the cover first, having them pop out of a fucking refrigerator in the desert, and they'd be like, figure it out, jackass. And they the challenge was to make it harder every issue. And that's basically what he was doing here. I think it's fun. It's an experiment.
Yeah, sure. It's
why
fun.
not?
It's fun. Cool.
Now, there are a couple reasons why Chapman and Hall would have gone with the relatively unknown Charles Dickens for this. The small popularity of Sketches by Bowes was good for publicity, yes, but also, he was broke as shit, and they could easily underpay him.
So wait, his secret writing name was no longer secret at this point?
Yeah. He was looking to basically branch out as a person himself, and they were like, he's broke as hell. We could just use him, probably without paying him, kind of the same as this other guy here. You remember when I tried to convince you to rob a 7-Eleven when you were broke as fuck?
No.
It's the same concept. I can remind you.
Tried. Tried. The key word there did not happen.
No, it did not happen. Is that man still in the hospital?
Shut the fuck up. That never happened.
Yeah, for sure, man.
You asshole.
We promised it never happened.
We don't want to get fucking sued if we're going to, like, slander fucking random companies that are never going to hear about this, but you're going to slander me right now and insinuate that I ever robbed a convenience store.
This entire podcast is about slandering you.
Not legally.
It was legally binding when you shot that man in the leg, man.
Illiteracy is not a crime, Jordan.
It should be.
It's not punished by that system.
I'm not going to go any further on that. I got some good singers,
no, what the fuck? No, dude. Like,
so, but here's the thing. Robert Seymour loved sports, and most of his lithograph prints had to deal with that. And Dickens had to tell him, like, dude, I don't know fuck all about sports. But still, he gave it his best shot, and they did not have a lot of time to work on this either. Dickens was commissioned on February 10th, 1836. They needed their first part done by March 31st, less than 2 months from now. For each chapter, Seymour would create 4 lithographs from which Dickens would comprise a story, which back then, 4 pictures a month was quite a lot, and it would definitely show that Robert Seymour had talent, which he did. But when the first chapter came out, Seymour found that his name was nowhere on it. And he pretty much got ghosted when it came to payment, too, just like the last magazine he worked for.
Weird.
And part of the problem was he was having with Dickens is that he would finish a printing plate with the picture provided, hand it to Dickens, and he would, like, he's supposed to write the story off of this, but then he would come back the next day with a story that didn't fit the picture, and then he'd just say, okay, then make another one. When I told that to Nicole, she like saw red. She was like,
you tried this?
Nicole's had some like freelance illustration stuff before, and she's had to deal with this kind of shit. And it's like, okay, you want me to provide the picture? Hey, actually, I edited the story to something a little bit cooler. So instead of this guy having like a jacket on, I need you to redraw all the pages where he's got a jacket on and just take the jacket off. And it doesn't work like that jacket off. You better fucking write it with the jacket on. Stuff like that. But yes.
It's like, okay, like I'll do it again, but you gotta pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Money.
Yeah, which neither of them had. Seymour also found that Charles was putting out advertisements for a new illustrator behind his back. This was his story. Seymour is the one who came up with this. And he already had 3 of the 4 illustrations done already for the second chapter. On April 19th, 1836, Seymour would call up the Dickens household to discuss their work. He and Charles would go out and share a few pints of grog before their discussion dissolved into an argument, and then they went their separate ways. Before the second chapter's release, the next day...
Pretty like one-sided, like, you're not paying me.
Yeah, I know. Well, at this point, though, I don't think he knew that even if Dickens was getting paid. And honestly, I think Dickens was probably telling him he wasn't. He was like, well, we're not going to get paid unless the story's done. So fuck you, figure it out, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, the very next day, Robert Seymour would shoot himself in the head with his hunting shotgun at the age of 37.
Oh, dear.
Charles Dickens is a little bit complicit in a murder. Even in the second chapter, Seymour's name was never listed, and Dickens quickly found a new illustrator with absolutely zero remorse. The only place you could find out that Seymour was the illustrator for the story was in his fucking obituary. When the book they were working on would be released in its novel format in 1837, it came with a disclaimer from Dickens which read, quote, Mr. Seymour never originated or suggested an incident, a phrase, or a word to be found in this book. Mr. Seymour died when only 24 pages of this book were published and when assuredly not 48 were written. And what he's referring to is that somebody found evidence that Seymour contributed way more to the story than what Dickens was saying. He went on to say, quote, all of the input from the artist was in response to the words that had already been written. He took his own life through jealousy, as it was well known that Seymour's sanity had been questioned.
Maybe just, like, let it go.
This shit reads like a Trump tweet. He's just fucking like, nope, he killed himself because he was jealous and he was a fraud and I never knew him and fuck him. I don't care if he took a plea deal. It's not my...
Dude, Charles Dickens sucks.
Yeah.
Like
he is
really
a complicated man.
Yeah, that's never... That means bad, generally.
Yeah, generally. Yeah. Of course, there is evidence to the contrary, as pointed out by Seymour's widow, who had plenty of evidence to show that not only was her husband the one who started the project, something Dickens would lie about on numerous occasions, but he was also the reason for a lot of creations in the early parts of the book as well. And by the way, Robert Seymour had to be buried as a felon, as suicide was considered a crime. His burial plot wasn't discovered until fucking 2000.
You don't stop working until we tell you to, motherfucker.
2006. Like, that's a long time to be lost for an artist. Anyway, the resulting book is Charles Dickens' first foray as a novelist, and from which he would find his first bout of success. This is 1837's Pickwick Papers, or as it was known back then, the posthumous papers of the Pickwick Club. Now, a trademark for Charles Dickens will start with this, his earliest novel, and that is the first paragraph is sometimes one sentence long, but never technically a run-on sentence. Dickens actually goes within all forms of quote-unquote correct English writing that although the sentence may be run-on, it actually uses complete correct punctuation so that it isn't. For instance, the Pickwick Papers starts like this. The first ray of light which illumines the gloom and converts into a dazzling brilliancy that obscurity in which the earlier story of the public career of the immortal Pickwick would appear to be involved, is derived from the perusal of the following entry in the Transactions of the Pickwick Club, which the editor of these papers feels the highest pleasure in laying before his readers, as a proof of the careful attention, indefatigable assiduity, and nice discrimination, with which his search among the multifarious documents confided to him has been conducted. It means nothing, by the way. It was a long-winded way of saying, here you go. The story is of a small society of rich old men, headed by Samuel Pickwick, in what has been deemed the Pickwick Club. Together they decide to explore the far reaches of the globe for the betterment of their own social standings. You remember kind of the South Park Club? I can't remember what it was about, but it's the one in which Chef was killed. Oh, it was to molest boys, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's like that, but without the molestation.
So like Adventure Club or some shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that.
But they never make it out of England for one reason or another. For instance, early in the story, Pickwick talks to his landlady about bringing in a friend to room with him, where he says, Mrs. Bardell, do you think it a much greater expense to keep two people than to keep one? And the entire time he's trying to convince her for him to, like, get a roommate, she thinks it's a marriage proposal, and she ends up getting so hot and flustered with the double entendres that she ends up fainting. When people walk through the door, all they see is Pickwick holding a knocked-out Mrs. Bardell. And she finds out that Pickwick's intention was never to marry her. She ends up suing him with these guys that walked in as witnesses, so he ends up going to jail. You know, shit like that. Mm-hmm. But the book really picks up with the introduction of Sam Weller, who works at a tavern, but Pickwick decides to take him in as a servant. He's a complete dumbass that's basically akin to Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. He just says dumb shit. They've since been deemed as Wellerisms. Like, quote, out with it, as the father said to his child when he swallowed a farthing.
Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry.
Huh?
No.
No, they're all like that, though. Basically, he says one thing that sounds normal, and then he says, huh, that's what she said. Like, that's basically it.
So he's just, like, trying to force catchphrases?
Yeah, they're called Wellerisms.
I'm sorry. I don't know why that bugged me the way it did.
It does for me, too, honestly. I know that he made Pickwick Papers popular to a lot of people, but reading it every time he came in, I almost felt like, well, I was enjoying myself. It's not a timeless type of humor. Well, the initial chapters of the Pickwick Papers didn't sell too well, but with the introduction of Sam Weller, the readership shot up, and by the end of the book, the magazine was selling 40,000 copies. Reviewers at the time called it the Sam Weller bump, and all of a sudden, companies were selling Pickwick cigars, Sam Weller joke books. There was even a play based on the book first performed in 1837, same year the book was actually released. But they didn't call it the Pickwick Papers. They called it Sam Weller, or the Pickwickians. Which, by the way, Charles Dickens fucking hated that play. He thought the fact that it was coming out the same time as the book was nothing short of plagiarism. But the story was a national sensation. Imagine what Game of Thrones was to people in like 2013. That's basically what it was.
But with this guy's lame, weird little...
Oh, I'm sorry. Was Game of Thrones not lame and weird?
I mean, it was pretty fucking weird.
I didn't like it.
Some of it was pretty... Yeah, you don't like any fucking fantasy stuff, though. So you can just get out of this conversation.
I know, it's why we're never going to do Tolkien.
You don't like any fantasy stuff except for Star Wars.
I don't care for Star Wars either.
I thought you liked You've watched all the Star Wars horse shit. What are you talking about?
No, I tried.
You even watched the animated horse shit.
No, I tried. I actually made it a point. I was like...
I've come over to your place so many times, and you're fucking plowing through it.
Because there's so much, and we didn't even get that far. We didn't get past the prequels. I've seen... every
motherfucker, I didn't get past the normal movies.
Well, I know that's the thing. After Last Jedi, I quit. But I heard about how
Mandalorian
good all this
is pretty cool, but
I didn't care to watch it. I don't know. I don't know.
You watched the horse shit cartoons and you didn't watch the Mandalorian.
I didn't finish the horseshit cartoons. That's my problem. What I'm saying is I wanted to appreciate them. I really fucking did. So I set up I looked up a timeline of events, and me and Nicole were going to plow through them. So we went through episode 1, and then after that, you've got Clone Wars, Rebels. You've got all the kids shows. So we started watching them, and I was like, you know, all the people on Reddit that acted like this was a big boy show are just fucking children. This is stupid. Yeah. We didn't care. I hear a lot of the offshoots are great, and I don't care. I don't give a shit. I think I really kind of cool. No, I'm not a cool person at all.
What are you watching right now, Jordan?
Oh, fuck, what am I watching?
You're watching a bunch of weeb shit, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, I'm going through a Godzilla marathon right now because there's a new Godzilla coming out in November.
I suppose it technically counts as weeb shit.
Yeah, true. It is from Japan, I guess. I mean, that's fine.
But I just think of like watching some obscure anime horse shit.
I'm going to be honest, though. I will say the Godzilla films that they've made in America are typically far times better than what they make in Japan, too, though. So I don't know where I'm at on the spectrum, but here I am.
You're definitely on it, though.
I did set up a timeline of events for all 54 Godzilla movies, including Rodan and fucking War of the Gargantuans and everything. And I set it up in chronological order, and I watched through all of them.
Are you sure you set it up in chronological order? Did you just look that up online and then follow it?
No, I did have to go through it.
I'm having a hard time believing you did work.
Fair. But for my luck, the movies typically open saying, the year is 1999, and I'm like, okay, perfect. Let me just pack this away towards the bottom of the list, so that it wasn't hard work.
I don't know if that's an efficient way to do that.
Probably not, but you know what? This is the quality that we bring to you on Caleb Can't Read. Everyone's listening to this right now, like maybe I shouldn't be using this for my book report. You shouldn't.
I don't think anybody would use Caleb Can't Read as a source of information.
Somebody has.
No way.
Had to have.
No way.
Well, during the time the Pickwick Papers was being released, Dickens got job offers left and right. He eventually accepted a position as editor of a magazine called Bentley's Miscellany, which was basically made in the first place just so that he could be the editor of it. This is the magazine where he'd publish the chapters of his second novel, which he began as soon as Pickwick Papers was over, just writing off that success. But between chapters 2 and 3 of the Pickwick Papers, Charles Dickens married his editor's daughter, Catherine Thompson Hogarth, on April 2nd, 1836, when he was 24 and she was 20, about 2 months after they had first met.
Yeah, they move quick, remember?
God, I mean...
You gotta move quick.
You know he was a virgin up to that point. He is just...
I mean, probably.
Anxious.
Yeah, no smashing without putting a ring on it back in the day.
Yeah, of course. Less than a year later, on January 6, 1837, their first of many children, Charles Jr., was born. Soon the family would move into a house in London that cost £80 a year to rent, less than 10 grand today. And before long, Catherine's younger sister Mary and Charles's younger brother Frederick moved in as well. And Charles was very attached to his wife's little sister Mary Hogarth, but not in a super weird way. He first met her when she was 14, and he was very obviously all about her older sister the entire time. But whenever Catherine and Charles would take a stroll, their father would force...
Sounds groomy to me, Jordan.
I know it sounds that way, but the dad would force Mary to go with them just to make sure they weren't banging in a churchyard, probably. So although I get that it does seem super weird looking in, Charles loved Mary like a younger sister, and I'm sure he was actually trying to get his brother Frederick to hook up with her as well. His brother was 16, Mary was 17 at this time, I think. Now, as
it's a little murky there, man. They're technically related at that point after marriage.
I don't know.
No.
Now, unless he was telling his brother, like, tell me what it was like.
Your kid's going to have a third arm by law.
We have to sew this on. I'm sorry. Now, as I mentioned before, as soon as the last chapter of the Pickwick Papers was published in November of 1837, Charles Dickens began work on his second novel, Oliver Twist, which, believe it or not, was actually the first Victorian novel with a child main character.
Ain't that the one with the Billy Joel soundtrack and the little cat?
You're far reaching. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking
Never
about.
mind, just go on.
Is that a gay thing?
No.
I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like a show tunes thing, but you hate show tunes, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't do musicals. Anyway, you can carry on.
All right, good. Maybe that joke landed with someone. Oliver Twist is a young orphan, growing up in a terrible workhouse run by the abusive Mr. Bumble. As an only form of entertainment, the orphan boys draw straws to see who will ask for another bowl of gruel. This, of course, leads to the famous quote, "Please, sir, I want some more." The master was...
I thought it was, can I have some more?
It is, I want some... Oh, I want some more is what it is in the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. Nobody reads the book, though. Everyone just, is going to watch a movie because it's much shorter.
Just remember the bit.
The master was a fat, healthy man, but he turned very pale.
Fat, healthy man.
As they were in 1800s England.
He's the fittest man alive.
Skinniest English.
Of course he's shit-faced right now. It's 11 a.m.
He gazed in stupefied astonishment on the small rebel for some
we'd be
seconds.
Star athletes, dude. Back in the day.
And then clung for support to the copper. The assistants were paralyzed with wonder, the boys with fear. "What?" said the master at length in a faint voice. "Please, sir," replied Oliver, "I want some more." The master aimed a blow at Oliver's head with a ladle, pinioned him in the arm, and shrieked aloud for the beadle. A beadle is like a schoolmaster.
You should have just left that in the air. That would have been more interesting.
Just leaving you to wonder.
Just like, I wonder what weird British shit that is.
You see, beetles were in the soup. No. The workhouse has had enough of such insolence on Oliver's behalf, so they option to give the child away to whomever is the most abusive person. The first guy to show up, they stand outside waiting for him, and they see him charging down the street on a carriage, just whipping the ever-loving shit out of his horse.
Like, all right, starting out strong.
Yeah, when he parks in front of them, he gets off the carriage and then just punches the horse in the face. It's my favorite part of the whole book. I don't know. I feel like it was...
I've always loved I've always loved that particular animal abuse trope. I love it in Conan. I love it in Blazing Saddles.
Uh-huh.
It's fucking fantastic.
I don't know what it is. Like, I know
like,
he's going for a little bit of sympathy here, Charles Dickens is, but I love this book as a humor. It's good.
Just cold clocking the ever loving shit out of
out of a horse.
Out of a horse
Just
or cow.
honestly, any big animal. It's funny. I don't know what to tell you. But still, the guys at the orphanage, they're still just like, no, not good enough. Needs worse. Well, Oliver ends up as an understudy for an undertaker named Mr. Sowerberry.
What's an undertaker again? That's somebody who
he throws somebody off the Hell in the Cell cage and through the announcer's table.
Don't do a WWE thing. Well, what's the?
He's a dude who dresses the body before they at the funeral home.
Is it just some dude who? I thought it was just like a dude who ran the funeral home.
Back then though, it's everything. I mean, besides like actually digging the graves, yeah, he's dressing the body and everything.
Oh, okay,
that's what you do.
Another high IQ moment here at Caleb Can't Read.
Whatever. It's a job that feels largely non-defunct.
Okay.
But when he takes him home, his jealous apprentice fights Oliver immediately upon his arrival.
Just on sight.
Pretty much, yes. And Oliver gets scared and he runs away to
one
London.
Little word out of your bitch ass mouth. There we go.
Yeah, no, he runs away to London. He just gets freaked. And honestly, that's like the last that we'll hear of any of the previous characters.
He can just... Yeah. Back onto another theme here of the past where like, you can just go to the next town.
Yeah,
You're
honestly.
good.
Yeah.
Like, ain't no ID, ain't no social security, like, just none of that shit.
He soon finds himself under the tutelage of a street urchin that calls himself the Artful Dodger. This kid is a pickpocket, always smoking and wearing clothes several sizes too large.
So cool.
But I know. Just
do you think
see
we could
yourself
be that cool?
in that.
Fetch me the finest Jinkos.
But he recruits Oliver to learn from
and your
the best.
gnarliest wave cigarettes.
Clover. The best is a homeless guy who's trained all the street kids to be thieves. A guy named Fagin. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Fagin. Fagin. It's Fagin.
Is there a Y?
Nope.
Is there an E?
No.
It's Fagin.
Nope. It's Fagin. Well, Fagin, I don't know.
It's not the word.
There's not a double G either, though. Like, hey, here he goes. You know that. It's just no. His name is Fagin.
Fagin.
In.
Yeah, Fagin. That's even closer than En.
Well, Fagin has Oliver shadow the Artful Dodger in the ways of crime, but because they always speak like, no, it's not stealing, it's borrowing. Oliver doesn't fucking get it until he actually sees the Artful Dodger stealing from a gentleman named Mr. Brownlow. Oliver's surprise leads to his arrest while the other boys get away, but Mr. Brownlow speaks to the police on the boys' behalf, offering him a chance at a new life within his very own home. Now, Fagin thinks this is a trick, so he gets his boys to stalk Oliver back to Mr. Brownlow's home and kidnap him back. It actually works, and as punishment for giving up the game too early last time, Fagin forces...
Borrowing him back.
Well, borrowing him. Fagin forces Oliver to rob a house with one of his most trusted and violent men, Bill Sikes. And this guy, to me, is one
most trusted and violent man.
Yeah, he really is. This guy, though, he is one of the most evil that Dickens ever wrote. Bill brings Oliver to the house of these couple old ladies, thinking they shouldn't be able to hear them from upstairs as they ransack the lower floor. But they're soon discovered by the servant, and while Bill Sikes manages to escape, Oliver gets shot in the fucking arm. Again, wasn't sure if I should laugh at that part, but when I read it, I was like, ho, ho, ho!
He's the scariest, most violent man, most trustworthy, and he's out. Throws a child at him.
He saw a gun. What are you supposed to do?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He's smart, I guess.
You can be good as fighting as you want. That guy's got a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you have a gun? I don't fucking know.
Because I'm strong.
Because I'm a big, scary boy.
Now, there have been rumblings of this kid named Oliver Twist making trouble throughout the town, at least through the street kids. And it comes to the attention of a particular man who approaches Fagin, calling himself Monks. And Monks wants to help Fagin either get Oliver back into his clutches and keep him there, or if that doesn't work, he wants the kid fucking dead. So together, Fagin and Monks make their way to the workhouse that Oliver grew up in, and they bribe Mr. Bumble for information on Oliver. What they find is a ring and a medallion that they've held on to, possessions that are the only connections to whatever life Oliver had before. Fagin and Monks quickly dispose of the evidence, but what they don't realize is they're being watched by Bill Sikes' girlfriend, a girl named Nancy. Now, Nancy does whatever Bill tells her, and she would never think of double-crossing him. But for the short time she's known Oliver, she's kind of seen him like her own child. So she knows something's going on, and she wants what's best for Oliver. So she goes to the house of those two ladies where he was shot. Turns out the kid's been recovering there, and she tells them that something's going on.
So they shot him, and then they were like...
hey, we just shot a fucking 8-year-old. Maybe.
They were like, call 911, and they were like, what is that? And they were like, right. Kid, where do you live? And he was like, I don't fucking live anywhere. And they were like, shit, so I just shot...
I shot an orphan. This is sad.
I just shot a homeless orphan, and he's like, yeah. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to put pressure on this and feed you soup.
Honestly, yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So Nancy goes there to, like, give him a heads up, but when Bill Sikes finds out about this, he beats Nancy to death in the street in broad daylight.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Extreme. And here's the thing. I didn't mention this before, but Bill has a bull terrier that follows him around. And when people chase Bill off for, like, very obviously murking that girl, he knows they're looking for a guy with a dog, so he tries to fucking drown the dog, too.
You couldn't drown the dog?
I think the dog just bit him and got away, if I remember correctly.
Good boy.
Yeah, right, yeah. In the end, though, Bill runs from cops over the rooftops of London and ends up falling through some debris while entangled in a rope, which ends up hanging him there on the side of the building. Ah, perfect.
Oh shit, a rope. It struck him like a snake. Like,
Oh,
what
shit.
the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like,
Oh shit, am I in Act 3 as the bad guy and there's rope near me? Oh no. In the end, Mr. Brownlow, it turns out, has been searching for Oliver Twist this entire time and finds the culprit of all these misdeeds to be at the helm of the mystery man named Monks. He has Monks arrested with next to no evidence of any wrongdoing, so he sets out to interrogate him.
what, they could do that?
He's got money.
You think, wow, to think back in the day they could just arrest and detain you for no reason, like, thank God we don't live then. Man.
Yeah,
that
and
would be terrifying.
Honestly, this story shows a lot of fiction in the part that he's like, they're going to release him eventually. So he sets out to interrogate Monks before he has a chance to leave and potentially kill Oliver. Turns out, Monks is actually a man named Edward Leaford, and his father, after the death of Edward's mom, he married a woman who had a child and then died in childbirth. Well, Ed grew up a complete bastard, so at the birth of this new son, Oliver, his father set out a will, one that says everything is going to go to Oliver unless he were to commit a felony, in which case everything goes to Ed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Basically, they're brothers, but Ed's a prick.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of his story, Brownlow knows that Monks will never give up his pursuit of Oliver. So he goes to him. He goes to Oliver, and he begs him to sign over his inheritance to Ed. And Oliver, who's like been shot, starved, and beaten with no knowledge before this point that he even had any family left, is like, yeah, man, take my fucking money. I don't care. Just
What is money?
I literally, for the first time in my life, got a second helping of soup. This is really the best day for me.
So that was very foolish of them, because this story is teaching us right now that, the cure for being born poor is to find out that you haven't been born poor.
I mean, if you remember, though, that's what the prisons actually did. They basically worked you, starved you, and fucking underpaid you because they're going to need to learn that they hate being poor. Like, that's...
What did he get caught doing? Stealing so he wouldn't be poor? Yeah. Well, boy, is he going to hate it.
So with that, Edward has his full inheritance, where he fucks off to America, but due to his own shitty ways, he ends up dying in prison anyway for an unrelated crime. And Oliver lives with Mr. Brownlow happily ever after. So Dickens clearly used the things he saw at Marshalsea Prison with some but little exaggeration. As much of a bastard as Dickens could be, he was actually very ahead of his time in what he felt was the mistreatment of both children and poor people. For the story of Oliver Twist in particular, Dickens was bashing the recent Poor Law Amendment Act of 1834, which stated that no unemployed person would be allowed financial support unless they work in a workhouse, and that the conditions of a workhouse are to be made purposely horrendous so that the unemployed person would get the feeling that they no longer wish to be poor.
I see.
Now, Caleb, for your expertise, why are you so lazy?
You lazy fuck. You think you're poor now? I'll show you what... They're doing the pack of cigarettes at a time thing with poverty.
Pack of cigarettes at a time?
You get caught smoking a cigarette, they make you smoke a whole fucking pack.
Oh no!
Like,
I remember when I got caught, taking a shot of Jameson, and my parents were like, "Do the whole bottle now," and I'm like, "Damn, oh no, no, I'm kidding.
You better learn.
As much as
it doesn't work with
with liquor.
A financial circumstance.
Oh yeah, no. Nor does it work with anything that's going to be addictive, like cigarettes or. I don't know why they did that. And soap tastes so nice too. The first time they wash your mouth out with it, it's like, fuck.
What soap were you tasting?
There are other flavors. I think it was flea medication. No. Anyway. And as much as we know...
You like cough syrup, huh? Well, now you're going to drink 4 bottles of it, son. That'll learn you.
We're going to top it off with smoking the resin out of this bowl and watching a full moon, you idiot.
Son. Hey, wake up.
As much as we know...
Oh, you're like doing heroin, huh?
As much as we know and love Oliver Twist today, the initial reaction to it was mixed. Not because the story wasn't written well, but because people thought the author was bringing forward too many real aspects that people just didn't want to think about, like poor people. It was almost as if he were insinuating that people hated them, but they were also mad that he was giving realistic depictions to people they hated, like poor people. So kind of a double-edged sword for him there. On the morning of May 7th, 1837, Charles, Catherine, and her little sister Mary came home from a play called Is She His Wife?
Why'd you say it like that?
I think that's the way you're supposed to say it.
I don't think that would.
That was a British accent.
Why did you do that? Was terrible.
Is she his wife?
I can't. All right. It's a good title. Let's go. Let's keep going.
But upon arriving, Mary fell unconscious to the floor. She was pronounced dead that same day from an apparent heart failure. Charles bought the plot of land for her to be buried with enough room for her parents and a brother to later lie beside her. He wrote the epitaph on her gravestone, which read, quote, "Young, beautiful, and good, God numbered her among his angels at the early age of 17. Her death was the reason for the only time in Charles Dickens' life that he was late on delivering pages, including the later death of one of his own children. He would never be late again. This was the only time. He would also always wear one of Mary's rings as a memento. Now, originally, one of the characters in Oliver Twist was supposed to die, but after Mary's own death, whom the character was based on, Dickens felt he couldn't go through with it. 8 months later, on March 6, 1838, Charles and Catherine would have their second child, whom Charles insisted they named Mary, though she would always go by her nickname, Mammy.
Charles, I understand you're going through a lot right now, and I am too, but that makes me really uncomfortable.
Really weird, man.
Man, like, it's not that you suggested it, it's that you're pushing it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's all great and well and good to, like, name your child after a family member whom you really liked, but it does put people in an odd position where, like, I talked to a coworker a long time ago where they were like, yeah, man, having a kid. And I'm like, cool, what are you going to name him? And he's like, I always throw out the same joke. I say, hey, whether they're a boy or a girl, you name them Jordan, because it works both ways, great person that fucking deserves it. And he goes, no, I'm going to name the child. It was something old sounding, like, Bob or something.
Ethel.
Yeah. And I was just like, you're going to give him that old ass name? And they're like, yeah, after my brother who died. And I'm just like, really? You're going to bring down the whole vibe right now? Like, fucking really? It's weird, man. Like, don't do that.
All right, man. That's cool.
Can't wait for your child to grow up with that feeling of, hey, I was named after somebody.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to name my kid Hope. That's right. Hope.
Naming my child Dayquil. After what he was conceived on.
Justice.
Justice. Dickens would continue pumping out the hits, and his books were such fucking sensations that the 18-year-old Queen Victoria would force people to stay up and discuss Oliver Twist with her. Under probably penalty of death. Don't you think it was funny when he was shot? I guess. I don't know. I feel kind of that way now.
Are we interpreting this wrong? Is this not supposed to be comedy?
I always
because
saw
it seems like
one.
Dark comedy.
I think it is. That is my interpretation of it. It's what I'm going for, so I don't sound like a monster. But I thought Oliver Twist was hilarious. I don't know what to tell you.
They're just beating an orphan the whole time. Like, what the fuck? Like, just a confused fucking orphan just getting his shit rocked. Like,
Stop it. It's too much. As his fame went on,
I just want soup!
Dickens published several more books under the same method. Released the chapters individually, then released them in a couple volumes once they were completed. This included Nicholas Nickleby in 1839, which in a single volume reaches almost 1,000 pages. And Dickens would use some of the money he made from Nicholas Nickleby to later rent his parents a home in Devon, with the hidden intention that it would keep his father the fuck away from him.
Why is Charles Dickens still renting?
He rented his parents a place.
Oh,
he didn't buy it for them, I guess.
Right.
So second home.
Is he still renting that other place that you told me about?
I think he bought it.
I
don't
one
remember.
would assume maybe Charles Dickens is just incredibly fiscally irresponsible.
He loved
How
his
fucking
money.
irresponsible do you have to be
He
back in
loved
the day
his
to
money.
have money and not fucking own a home?
I don't know. Good question. Actually, yeah, you're right. He is renting. He's
Like,
currently
dude,
renting.
If you felt like it, you just went off into the woods and like made one.
Yeah.
Like,
I
what
mean,
the fuck? Like, you
that's
can't
true.
do that shit anymore. Like,
But here's the thing. So he rented his parents that home on basically the other side of the British Isles. And both parents knew why. He had a sudden urge of charity that would send them to the far reaches of the country, and both of them greatly chastised him for it. They would eventually make their own way back to London without Charles's knowledge just a few years later. His dad, John, also found a new scheme: steal his son's drafts and sell them on the black market.
Brilliant.
A good idea. Charles and Catherine would have a couple more kids during this
tax,
time.
boy, I raised you.
Kate on October 29th, 1839, and Walter Savage Landor Dickens on February 8th, 1841. But Walter would go by the name Young Skull to his family.
Okay, edgelord.
This would actually be the start of the Dickens family giving their kids really stupid fucking nicknames, by the way.
I want to hear them all.
We'll get there, one by one. Now, it was around this time that Dickens created a very experimental magazine for the time called Master Humphrey's Clock, in which the magazine itself would be framed by a man named Master Humphrey, who tells the reader a story, him or a group of friends, including Mr. Pickwick and Sam Weller, as they trade off telling either a chapter from a longer saga or just a short story. So within the magazine Master Humphrey's Clock, there were actually 2 books of Charles Dickens. There was Barnaby Rudge, which apparently was very good, but it was overshadowed by Dickens' other story, The Old Curiosity Shop. It was another story of a sad child, this one named Little Nell, and I guess because she wasn't an orphan, people really dug it. Supposedly, when the last chapter was being released, people stormed the wharf, waiting for the magazine to arrive by boat, shouting, "Is Nell dead?"
All right.
They're just really... Spoilers! Spoiler warning!
Spoiler warning!
However, a lot of people would be disappointed to find out Little Nell does in fact die from her adventures, and Dickens actually he based the character on Mary Hogarth. Oh, and there's also a character named Dick Swivel. Just thought that was worth mentioning.
That's a good name.
It is a good one. Dick Swivel.
Man, if that's a good fucking name, I can't wait to hear the shit names.
Sit and turn. Yeah. But yeah, the end result for the Old Curiosity Shop led to a lot of people being really fucking mad. People were apparently not super stoked about having Dickens make everyone fall in love with this character just to have him kill them off. And as a result, he started getting hundreds of letters asking that he write a new ending, which is kind of how the movie Misery started, when I think about it. Although Oscar Wilde, ever the shithead, wrote a review of the book saying, quote, "One must have a heart of stone to read the death of Little Nell without laughing." He's so catty.
I believe he interpreted it in a similar fashion.
It's supposed to be funny, right? What's funny is that the Old Curiosity Shop was as popular in America as it was in England, and Dickens used several real locations in the book, including St. Bartholomew's Church in Shropshire, where he says Little Nell is buried. And I guess Americans kept showing up to the church looking for her grave, oblivious to the fact that it's fiction. And this local mailman convinced the people of that village to come together and make a headstone for Little Nell in the cemetery, where they could then make Americans pay an admission fee to see it.
These were all just like the ancestors of the Harry Potter kids.
There is a fucking, like, half a shopping cart. There's half
read a different book.
There is half a shopping cart with, like, luggage in it and shit, like, sticking out of the wall in King's Cross Station. Like, oh, platform 9 3/4. And I don't think you have to pay, like, a fee to be there, but, like...
Just half a shopping cart welded into a wall.
Mm-hmm. There really fucking is. I've been there.
Oh, Christ.
Now, during the short 2-year run of the magazine Master Humphrey's Clock, Dickens got a pet bird, a raven he named Grip. Apparently, Dickens once told
That's fucking badass.
Well, he once told his neighbors, "I like ravens," and they soon showed up to his doorstep with a baby bird they'd stolen. Like, here you go. I
got one right here.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's hard to define just how fucking... like,
you have a wild animal.
He was Michael Jackson in the 80s. That's who he was to people in England.
He molested children?
Yeah, no. But I mean, like, you know, I don't know. If like, a really popular... if Christoph Waltz just, like, showed up and was just like, "Man, I want a burrito. I will get you one." Like, like, I'd do it. Well, Grip was...
It ever bother you, like, how certainly Michael Jackson absolutely did that shit, and then we're still just... Everybody just...
We just don't talk about it.
We just go into stores and we just, Thriller.
Look, 100 years from now, there's going to be a podcast or some sort of equivalent to it. I don't know, a VR version maybe. Well, where they'll talk about, like, man, can you believe how fucking stupid people were to like these people?
Like, out of everybody, that shit has been dug up on and canceled, and yet this strange little diddle elf.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason.
I don't want to watch it. There's so many documentaries. I don't want to watch Finding Neverland. I don't want to watch any of it because I know we did it. I mean, I don't want to know more about it.
Shouldn't any kind of, like, I don't know, police evidence be, like, public record or something?
No, if you pay enough money, no.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's it.
I'm just saying we may not have to watch anything.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I'm pretty comfortable with the facts because I never liked Michael Jackson. I don't know. I wasn't into him.
Yeah, don't get
That's
it.
okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
We're getting off topic here. Sorry, everybody.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, Charles Dickens did not molest children.
We'll get to that on episode 2. No. Kidding. Joke. No, but we're talking about his raven here. Now, Grip was loved by everyone in the Dickens family, at least for a little bit. And either Grip loved them too and decided to stay, or more than likely he had his wings clipped so he had to. Well, Dickens relayed to a friend...
God damn it, the raven's being a raven again.
Dickens relayed to a friend in a letter, quote, "I love nobody here but the raven, and I only love him because he seems to have no feeling in common with anybody. I hate my children, I hate my wife, but I love my raven.
Bring me the bird."
But as it had the freedom to roam the house like a cat or dog...
Shit everywhere.
Yeah, even learning a few phrases like, "Hello, old girl," or "Put the kettle on, we'll all have tea," and even learning to bark like a dog. Grip grew to a wingspan of over 2 feet long, and it soon became a problem. It was cute at first that Grip would bury cheese and pennies in the backyard, but it soon quickly started burying things from neighbors.
It sounds really unhygienic, man.
Yeah,
to have it in the house.
Like,
you know what the white stuff is in bird shit, right?
It's what is it?
It's fucking bird shit.
What? What a dumb joke. That was stupid. It's fucking dumb. Well, anyway, it started... I mean, it's a big bird, so it started bearing other shit, too, like a hammer, which they didn't own. You know? Grip also...
A bird can pick up a fucking hammer.
Yeah, dude, that's scary.
A bird is lifting dumbbells.
It's got a hatchet again. Yeah, Grip also terrorized the dog, eating his food and biting their coachmen and children. Eventually, Catherine insisted that Grip be put in the carriage house, where Grip started peeling off the lead paint of their carriage. One day...
Holy shit, now it has lead poisoning.
Yep, one day Grip would eat, quote, a pound or 2 of white lead, and although Dickens thought he would make a full recovery since he still managed to bite the coachman, Grip would pass...
Still got fighting him.
It's getting better. Grip would pass away around the age of 2.
R.I.P.
Yeah, on March 12th, 1841.
2 fucking wonderful years of
For
chaos.
real.
Like, fuck yeah.
I mean, it's only 2, though. I wonder how old it takes for a raven to become full size, too. Like, that bitch could have gotten big.
Just tearing shit up. Terrorizing dogs, shitting everywhere.
Oh, you think peeling off the paint is one thing. It's fucking cigarette in its mouth, putting your carriage down.
That bitch fucking ripped off your shingles and threw them at children.
It could. Although the kids and the dog were happy, Dickens was beside himself with grief. He thought...
It was so funny. It was so fucking funny, you guys. And now he's gone. And I'm stuck with you fucking shitty children and a shitty wife.
He thought Grip was murdered and that the culprit was a publisher he turned down a while
back. One of you did it, child.
The bird would be stuffed and mounted above Dickens' writing desk and would remain there until his death. The Dickens did end up getting 2 more ravens, though, all named Grip, as well as a full-on fucking eagle at one point. And every one of them...
I don't think the bird's the only one with lead poisoning, homeboy. Like, I think that shit got to him a little bit.
Why are they going bigger?
Like,
yeah, like, dude...
the ravens need something larger to keep them in check.
I need a predator. I need a bird of prey. Could I please get a condor? Like, what the fuck?
We're going to balance this out like a fish tank, except we live in the tank.
Find me a pterodactyl. Yeah. No, every one of those birds bullied their dogs. But it was Dickens' first bird that inspired him to even write them in as a pet for the title character in Barnaby Rudge. Now, with the conclusion of his magazine, Master Humphrey's Clock, Dickens found himself at what he thought to be the height of his fame, and for a while it was. He started to experience some new money misbehavior, as he met a friend of a friend's fiancée, and one day grabbed her by the arm and ran her down to the nearby sea, telling her that he planned to drown them both.
What?
He's gonna Osamu Dazai them.
Wait, back up. Why?
We don't know, to be completely honest.
Because he'd reached the height of his fame?
He just felt like he could do anything. He had some godlike behaviors and decided that also came with some Old Testament flood killing, I guess. I don't know. We don't know really why he did it. This guy kind of
sucks.
Yeah. He does.
Okay.
She did manage to fight him off, but that kind of killed that friendship. Dickens soon went on a 2-month tour of Scotland before deciding to head to America, probably to evade authorities. In January of 1842, at 30 years old, Charles and Catherine Dickens arrived in Boston Harbor, while Catherine's sister Georgina stayed in home to care for their kids. Even upon their return, Georgina would stay at their house from this point on until Charles's death. Now, while in America, Charles documented his trip in a travelogue he called American Notes for General Circulation. In it, he noted how quick he was mobbed by fans as soon as he stepped off the ship. Quote, "I can do nothing that I want to do, go nowhere I want to go, and see nothing that I want to see."
How the fuck do you even find out Charles Dickens is getting off a boat back then?
Yeah, actually, good question. I
Did he
don't fucking
announce
know.
It because he was
yeah,
into
did
it?
somebody
Like,
have like their own raven that they just send a message to the neighbor? Yeah, it's so weird. "If I turn into the street, I am followed by a multitude." To his surprise, he'd found that his stories.
Are we sure he's not lying?
No, this
I
is
mean,
true,
we did kind of
actually.
just skim over this, but the dude did have such a complex that he just tried to kill 2 people.
Himself included in that, but yeah, I mean.
Okay, we skimmed over an attempted murder-suicide, Jordan.
We can only skim it probably because of the prevalence of his powers back then. That is all that got out.
Like that.
Well, no, this is true, though.
That's pretty heinous.
No, this is true. People were all about him in America, and that wasn't a good thing in his eyes, though. See, to his surprise, he found that his stories had made it overseas, even if he never made a deal with anyone to print his stories there.
Oh, did his dad sell them?
And as it would turn out, right up there with child labor and the unfavorable living conditions of the poor, losing money was something else that Dickens just couldn't stand. As he would find himself begged to give speeches to crowds of fans, he would soon turn his speeches into entire monologues about how there needed to be international copyright laws. While he was in America...
Y'all need to be giving me money.
Yeah. While he was in America, he found enough time to get a group of 25 writers together, including Washington Irving, the man who wrote Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where they planned to campaign to Congress about the bootlegging problem in America. Not alcohol, just media.
Oh.
But the press got wind of...
Wait. Okay, what time period are we in now?
This is 1842.
Word, okay.
Yeah. But the press got wind of the idea and started bashing the writers very publicly, Dickens in particular, saying fuck them for wanting to be paid in the first place, since they should be happy that they're even famous. And because of that, the group got scared and quit. There's no cameras anywhere.
They should be happy they're famous.
Yeah, pretty much.
What do you do with all the money? Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Are you giving it back to your
about
community who made you popular in the first place?
No, it's all my money.
Now, losing money to bootleggers was not Dickens's only problem with America. As much as he loved it, he had a fair number of things to complain about, too. He thought this new fad called chewing tobacco was fucking disgusting.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, fucking rad. Like, no, Dickens was hammering down fucking cans of Grizz. Like,
whenever he turned
fucking fat yompers, boys.
Gross. Whenever he turned a corner, people would just spit in the street. He also thought it was weird And I found this very interesting. He thought it was weird how many laws there were.
Get the fuck back to England, you mamby-pamby British bitch.
He thought it was weird how many laws there were to protect somebody if they decided to just shoot or stab someone. Those laws have never gone away. He was like, you could just up and kill a guy, huh? And
just
fucking
cramming Shaw and shooting fucking revolvers at people all the fucking time, dude.
He was like, you just get away with it, huh? Yeah.
Oh, God, the two of us would have been dead by like 17. Just shooting off our mouth one time and somebody just,
oh my God.
Pow!
Didn't even need to commit an offense. You could pretty much, if there's two people alone on a street somewhere and neither of you know each other, watch your ass. I mean, that still kind of goes today, but like back then it was just like, yeah, there's cameras that haven't even been invented yet. And just, I can just kill this guy. Nobody would even know I was here.
Forensics are not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'll fucking cut my hair and drop it all over the body. I don't give a shit. Like,
this is still back when they thought that like the last image somebody saw was imprinted on their eyeball. And they would like go in with like a microscope to try and discern what Rorschach fucking shit was there. It's so stupid. People were convicted on that. It's so
it kind of looks like he's fucking guilty.
I don't understand. Did he see somebody gape his asshole right before he shot him? I don't understand. Did he die from pink eye? What happened?
What is happening? It looks like a dead fucking eye.
They all just look like my father hitting me. I don't know why. Well, he also talked about the horrors of what would happen to these runaway slaves. We were still 20 years away from the Civil War, but Dickens did also empathize with the plantation owners themselves, as he was a believer in a state's right to choose. Not asking the people enslaved, of course, but, it's a state's right to choose.
They can choose to own people.
They can choose if they own a human being. That is weird.
Okay, it's a state's... Oh, God. I'm not even going to say it.
I hope you don't. But Dickens loved a lot about America, too. He fucking loved Boston. He even went to the newly built Perkins School for the Blind, where he would interview a deaf and blind student by the name of Laura Bridgman. When Dickens would later publish his travelogue in 1842, it was Helen Keller's parents, big fans of Charles Dickens, who would read about the school and decide to send their daughter to Perkins based on it, where Helen would then be tutored by Laura Bridgman's very own protege, Anne Sullivan. It's the Caleb verse. The Caleb can't read a verse.
It's just history, dickhead.
I know. It's like they're all published by the same guy or something. It's crazy characters cross-pollinating and whatnot or whatever they do.
Please continue.
No, hang on.
Over your shit. Have a little drinky poo. What you got there, Jordan?
Well, now the news of Charles Dickens's arrival in America had reached the ears of one Dr. Dean, who was unfortunate enough to attend the death of a 13-month-old child named Charles Irving Thornton in Virginia. Now, Dr. Dean was compelled to write Charles Dickens for whatever reason, asking him to write an epitaph for the gravestone of this young boy, and for whatever reason, he complied. Quote, "This is the grave of a little child whom God in his goodness called to a bright eternity when he was very young. Hard as it is for human affection to reconcile itself to death in any shape, and most of all, perhaps at first in this, his parents can even now believe that it will be a consolation to them throughout their lives, and when they shall have grown old and gray, always to think of him as a child in heaven. And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them. He was the son of Anthony and M.I. Thornton, called Charles Irving. He was born on the 20th day of January, 1841, and he died on the 12th day of March, 1842, having lived only 13 months and 19 days. It's a very long tombstone. When you look at the picture online, too, it is huge.
Getting paid by the word there.
Yeah,
On a tombstone,
honestly.
Probably, actually.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that would have been expensive.
Yeah, right.
This is for a family he didn't know?
Yeah.
Wait, did they pay him, or did he just volunteer?
No, he volunteered. Yeah, I know. Weird,
This is a very inconsistent character in this
I
man.
know! Well, he loves poor people, kind of hates slaves, but also, but he loves the poor. But
I mean, I
hates women,
wouldn't say
and
he
I don't know.
hates slaves, but he definitely
Clearly didn't understand, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think he hates slaves a little bit. If you think it's a state's rights to choose, do you just up and forget that slaves are also people?
No, it's worse than hate. Because if you're thinking of people not as people, but as animals that you can own, then that's worse than hating them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true. Well, the grave is still around, and it's apparently deep in the Cumberland State Forest. But if you ask a park ranger to help you out, they'll get you there.
You're like, hey, man.
It's really weird, though. I've seen pictures of it. It is a single tombstone and nothing else.
Slip him a couple Benjamins. Well, it's a park ranger, so probably just give him like a pint of fucking like rum. And
yeah,
like,
I want to find. I'm out here looking for a long rock. Like,
sir, your longest rock, please. Here's some marijuana.
Now, when Dickens visited Philadelphia, he managed to meet up with a particular book reviewer on 2 separate occasions. During their talks, he showed the reviewer a small painted portrait of his children, and beside them in the picture was Grip, his pet bird. The reviewer was fucking stoked to find out that the bird from Barnaby Rudge was based on a real bird. And
oh shit, that bird is real!
A couple years later, that man would go on to write a story called The Raven.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Who wrote that? Was that a Lovecraft thing?
No, Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, I can't tell with you, man. But apparently Charles Dickens and Edgar Allan Poe actually fought about what was considered copyright infringement over this incident.
No, you can't just you can't copyright ravens.
I know. Well, they managed to split off amicably enough. Like, they basically shook hands. They didn't like each other.
Like,
by the
dickhead,
end.
Did you even read the thing? It's not related. Like... You just had a fucking...
owned a bird.
You had a bird terrorizing your home, and I wrote a story about a bird.
I'm the first man to own a bird. I'm the first fucking man. Fuck you. Like, it's weird.
It was my idea to terrorize my family with birds.
I mean, this is rich guy behavior, too, though, just wanting more money out of somebody, you know?
Dude, I would very much like to figure out at some point just what comes over me when I have fucking money that makes me behave this way about fucking money.
I don't know. Why do they all go towards children too? Why are they always like, you know what? I want to fuck that. Why?
And they're so weird, and they're so fucking weird about it too. Like anybody that I've ever worked for, like if I would go up to them and I'd be like, "Hey man, look, I need you to give me $5 right now, or in an hour, I'm going to have to come back here and I'm going to have to kick you in the balls and take $200 out of your pockets." They'd be like, "Don't take my fucking money." And I'd be like, "Shit." And then an hour later, I'd come back and I'd be like, "All right, man, here we go." And fucking just rack their nuts and then take their fucking wallet. And they'd be like, "I don't understand. What happened just now?" Like pinching every single little bit. Are you the
taxes in this metaphor? I feel like you just want to kick people in the balls.
No, I'm basic maintenance.
Maintenance of a country, maintenance of a company.
I'm maintenance and raises.
Yeah.
Like, no, my fucking money. Oh, God. Like,
all right, well.
I can't get hard without my money.
Well, now you're never going to get hard ever again. Now, by the time Charles and Catherine returned to England later in 1842, Dickens had changed. In England, he felt like a god, partly because he spent his time amongst people of similar wealth, and the English citizens were kind enough to leave him the fuck alone whenever he stepped outside. But in America, he found that not only are people mistreated the entire world over, but they also have a kind of ire for people outside their own social class. Again, rich guy behavior. Oh, what? They don't like me?
No.
America definitely humbled him. So Dickens started a story he would serialize in magazines for the next 2 years called Martin Chuzzlewit. And while Dickens believed this to be his best work thus far, the early sales in the magazine showed him that he needed a drastic change in the story as the public just wasn't interested. So he decided to use his newfound experiences and send the main character to America. Unfortunately, as much as Dickens really did like his trip to America, he used Martin Chuzzlewit to only make fun of the Americans he didn't like, which made it look like he just really fucking hated Americans. Soon, Dickens was receiving his first run of hate mail, and from 2 different continents. Still, he would continue writing Martin Chuzzlewit, simultaneously working on a side project which would ironically become one of his greatest works. Now, besides the fact that he was getting more hate mail than ever, Charles Dickens would receive around 60 to 80 letters a day on the regular, and he'd respond to almost every single one of them. There are currently 14,252 letters from Dickens that we know about, though only around 250 letters...
Did you say 14,000?
Yeah. Over 14,200.
What, were they one sentence each? What the fuck?
No, man, he wrote out full-bound letter. Like, nobody was like, text messaging or anything like that. They were writing shit out.
This motherfucker hated his family.
anything to
like
stay away
this
from them.
fucking dude.
He was a workhorse, though. That was just, I don't know, that was his thing. But I will say only 250 letters to Charles Dickens actually survive today because he had a habit of burning them all at once in great big bonfires. Weird. I don't know.
It's probably all the lead and alcohol.
Find me another book.
Okay, this dude is like, we haven't talked about it, but this dude fucking drinks.
Probably.
Clearly.
I can't remember if I put it in there
This
or not.
dude
But
fucking drinks.
I'm going to say up until I wrote something about him specifically not drinking later on, which I don't remember if I do or not, I'm gonna have to agree with you. This dude hammered them down. He had to be Orson Welles level of fucking drunk on the daily.
like just the level of like inconsistency and passion.
Yeah, right?
around him.
I mean, we have letters he wrote to other great authors like Alfred Tennyson, Wilkie Collins, Thackeray, as well as royalty like Queen Victoria and several prostitutes. There's nothing weird in those, unfortunately.
Bro.
Because of Dickens always writing about poor people in a favorable light, it turns out poor people loved him. And back then, the fucking system was so unequal. Not like today, of course. But there was a ton of prostitutes that read his shit and were just like, hey, man, good on ya. You know? That's really all it was.
All right.
Now, believe it or not.
Wait. So he didn't write letters to prostitutes? The prostitutes wrote
Well, he
letters to
wrote
him?
back to them, but they were reaching out to him first. Like, hey, man, sorry, can barely sit down right now. But you know what?
Shut the fuck up.
But you know what, man? I love reading your shit. Thank you for not making us seem like denizens of fucking society. Like, sex work is real work, that kind of shit. And he's just like, hey, thanks. You know, like, I don't know.
He's just like, wait, you want black, are you?
Now, believe it or not.
I just believe in a state's rights to keep your trade illegal. But yes, I am an ally.
Now, believe it or not, Christmas has really only been popular from the Victorian era onward, and for no other reason than it was just something for people to do.
Was it the Industrial Revolution?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Capitalism?
No. So here's the thing. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert had shown off their Christmas tree in 1840, and soon enough, they started showing up in people's homes throughout the country. And while he was in America, Dickens had talked with Washington Irving about Christmas and how it seemed to kind of bring people of all classes together.
Well, shit, man.
What? Well,
Fantastic. All right. Plow all this forest down and plant one fucking tree. And we're going to kill it around the 5-foot mark.
I don't like it. It's ugly.
Brilliant.
Well, because frankly, everyone was getting absolutely shit-faced during Christmas. That was the tradition at the time. That's why people
Like
celebrate.
more shit-faced?
Yeah.
Because back in the day, everybody was just like shithouse, like pretty constantly, right?
Yeah, but it was even more so.
Like more so shithouse.
Why did the people gather together? Liquor. Why were neighborhoods throwing community Christmas parties? Liquor. Why did Christmas carols even become popular in the first place? It's liquor. And Dickens figured maybe if he wrote a story that tugged on the popularity of Christmas, then maybe he could finally force his readers to actually give a shit about the poors.
About Christmas?
About poor people.
Poors?
Yeah, it's all underlining. It's about the poors. Now, what Dickens had done after his U.S. tour was this...
You want to get blacked out with me in Christmas Carol Creed songs?
Yeah. They are technically Christmas songs, are they not?
They're Jesus,
Christian,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
What Dickens had done after his U.S. tour was this thing called doing the slums. I don't think you ever stopped. Now, basically, the upper class would be allowed into workhouses and factories just to get to watch poor people suffer.
Like fucking zoo animals?
Like, wow, look at them go, you know?
Look at them toiling away. Man, thank God I don't have to fucking work.
But what Dickens did instead was go to the tin mines of Cornwall, where he saw the working conditions of the fucking kids that worked there, as well as what people called a ragged school.
That's the state's right. And he respects
It's
that.
their fault for being there in the first place. If they didn't want to be poor, they would have developed Microsoft on their parents' loan in their garage and act like it's a rags to riches story. Yeah, no. He also went, though, to what people called a ragged school in London, which is a school for homeless kids, but because they're poor and that's their fault, they were getting the worst kind of treatment. All of this pissed Dickens off.
Okay.
What?
Dude. Okay,
What?
fuck this guy.
What?
He went to America and saw fucking slavery and it didn't fucking do anything to him.
I again though, I'm going to differentiate
Like,
white,
really?
white and black people.
Well, no, because
here.
he's saying all this shit about, and he's like, writing about how much it fucking sucks to be poor, and then like it didn't hit anything in him. He was just like, oh, that's a class even lower than me, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, basically.
Or I mean, not lower than him
No.
at this point, but
No,
he grew up that way, and it's like,
no, I think that you hit the nail on the head earlier. I think it is
Like-
to him the difference between what's human and what isn't. And he just went like, well, yeah, they're hey, is it cruel? Yeah, a slaughterhouse is cruel. But
it just kind of pisses me off that dude would be like this much for advocating for like awareness about like rights of poor people, and then like just be like, oh, slaves, yeah, well, states' rights, like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
I know.
Like,
He's a dumb shit, but a dumb shit with a heart of gold.
it makes him full of shit.
Well, all of the stuff he saw while doing the slums, in particular, this pissed Dickens off more than anything, especially since he remembered back to how mad everyone was at him when he pointed out these living conditions for orphans in Oliver Twist.
Whoa, not these white children.
Yeah. But now he was going to show people a more realistic standard without the humor and mask it behind an up-and-coming popular holiday, Christmas. As much as he would publish petitions to the common man asking them to reconsider child labor laws, and as much as he spoke one-on-one with politicians about education reform, it got him nowhere. And it was for this reason in 1843 that Charles Dickens would begin to write A Christmas Carol. Quote, Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. The story is, as we all know it, Ebenezer Scrooge's dead business partner, Jacob Marley, visits him on Christmas Eve and tells him that he's in purgatory, and if Scrooge wants to avoid the same fate, he has to change his ways. He's visited by the ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas yet to come, who each shows Scrooge that he's always had a penchant for greed. His slave-driving ways are keeping his employee from spending time with his son, Tiny Tim. As Scrooge keeps it up, he'll die cold and alone. And there are some differences here and there that weren't shown in the Muppet Christmas Carol, but the basic layout is the same. And honestly,
Yes, I'm familiar with the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Honestly, I looked it up, and it is really, like, besides there being puppets in it, it's really, like, the most true to form for what the story was. Out of everything else, like the Jim Carrey fucking CGI shit that no one watched, yeah, none of it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, everyone did. It's okay.
Yeah.
Most of Jim Carrey's career, post 2000, it's okay to forget. It's okay. That's fine. Yeah. Now, there are a lot of theories as to where the image of Ebenezer Scrooge came from. There was an antagonist in Martin Chuzzlewit that could have been a first draft character for him, and there are a few politicians that are likely suspects as well. More than likely, Scrooge was an amalgamation of several things, but there was this one politician in particular named John Elwes, who was a known miser. He'd go to bed whenever it turned dark, just so he wouldn't have to burn any candles. He'd wear clothes till they literally fell off his body, and he would walk in the rain so he wouldn't need to pay for a carriage. And of course, he was a bitter old bitch, too. When you look at portraits of John Elwes, he's just in this perpetual hunchback position with this long nose and pointed chin, just like Scrooge has always been presented. So it's winter of 18... No. No, don't go there. Nope. Look. I'm just saying, John Elwes. Stop.
Hey.
Hang on, let me check on your can. You're getting a little towards the two end of that six-pack. Hang on now.
I don't know about that one, man.
God, what was the character we were talking
Getting
about?
a little fucking spicy.
No, what's the one from the Smurfs? Gargamel. Yeah, I remember going over that one. And
God
being like,
damn.
Yeah. Now that one I can confirm. So it's winter of 1843. In Dickens's current story, Martin Chuzzlewit would continue until its completion in about another 7 months. Unfortunately, people hated the story, and because it was such a financial disaster, Dickens had trouble finding a publisher for A Christmas Carol. So he decided to publish it himself and eat the cost. To make it worth it, though, he was going to raise the cost of the book to 5 shillings, about $33 today, which is a lot considering how short A Christmas Carol really is. But when the book released on December 19th, 1843, just 6 days before Christmas, all 6,000 copies were sold out by Christmas Eve. It has never been out of print since. Now, to make an excuse as to why the price was so high, Dickens added color pages, a leather cover, and gold-gilded pages. Unfortunately, when he had to pay back the company that made the book with all these extravagances, he ended up with a little less than $133,000 today, which really disappointed him.
Yeah.
Just a month later, in January of 1844, there would be an unauthorized version of A Christmas Carol being sold for 2 fucking cents. And since that was attacking Dickens at his wallet, he stepped in, saying to his solicitor, quote, "I have not the least doubt that if these vagabonds can be stopped, they must. Let us be the sledge..."
Someone's acting like a certain anti-Semitic caricature right now. Mr. Dickens. That's all I'm saying.
"Let us be the sledgehammer in this, or I shall be beset by hundreds of the same crew when I come out with a long story." He underscored sledgehammer, too. He was like, kill them.
You remember when I tried to drown a bitch? Yeah, not that long ago.
It's okay. She wasn't white. No. A mere 2 days after the bootleg version was sold, Dickens took the company to court, hoping for a huge paycheck in return. However, the company that ran the bootlegs just said, we declare bankruptcy. So Dickens got nothing. Instead...
Hey, Mr. Dickens, where's your Christmas spirit? Come on. Come on, man.
I was drunk when I did it.
Come on, is it really...
It's January!
Come on, man. Come on, man. In the Christmas spirit, aren't you just happy that people got a nice story? Like, really, that's what it's about.
Well, instead, he had to pocket the court fees, which was £700, a little over $36,000 today.
Fuck.
So he pretty much made this whole endeavor earn him less than $100K overall.
So he was like... So he just
Fuck you.
So he released a book that was like, yeah, look at this guy flipping out about his money. And then he just flipped out because he lost a bunch of fucking money.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, this is what happened.
Hey, Caleb, it's about separating the art from the artist, you know?
All right, fucking A.
In the following years, Dickens would continue to publish short Christmas stories, never quite to the success of A Christmas Carol, but still successful nonetheless. But whereas he would point out the unfair treatment of workers in A Christmas Carol, he would use these other tales as a platform too. Yet they were a lot more heavy-handed, which got on people's nerves yet again. Apparently, one of these stories, called The Cricket on the Hearth, was made into a play in Russia during Lenin's time, and he actually left the performance because he was getting angry at how much sympathy was being given to poor people. Wasn't that your whole rallying point?
I'm very confused. We're going to have to do some reading. I don't know how to respond to this one.
Well, you see, Lenin fooled a bunch of poor people to overthrow a government so that he could be in power, and then he got mad when poor people started doing unpoor things.
Wait, no, stop.
But as time went on, Dickens decided that what people needed wasn't another Christmas story, but to have the message of A Christmas Carol hammered into their fucking head. Over the course of his life, Dickens would read A Christmas Carol to live audiences 127 times. He also approved of a stage play that...
fucking had to get the money back.
Yeah. He also approved of a stage play that ran for over 40 days and was an immense success. And by the way, there's a lot of different rumors saying that A Christmas Carol popularized this or that. There's even a movie from 2017 called The Man Who Invented Christmas, but everything in the story was not originally from Dickens besides calling someone a Scrooge. Even saying bah humbug was used before the book. So anyway, soon after the novella's release, on January 15th, 1844, and October 28th, 1845, Charles and Catherine would have their 5th and 6th children, Francis Jeffrey Dickens and Alfred d'Orsay Tennyson Dickens. But they, of course, went by nicknames instead.
All right, let's hear it.
Francis was known as Chicken Stalker.
That's a lot.
That's a lot to get behind.
Why'd they call him Chicken Stalker?
No idea. We really don't know the reason. This is going to be more confusing. Alfred was called Skittles, but
Get the fuck out. No.
But sometimes Samson Brass. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Which one's Blanket?
By the way, Skittles had his middle names.
The fuck out of here. No, that was not... What? Okay, no. Hold on. No.
What? You gotta look it up?
No. I want to know what Skittles was before Skittles.
Okay, fair enough. Look up... we're gonna Wikipedia the origins of Skittles. Why not?
Okay, fuck Nick. Right, okay. We did like a fucking 30-second. The pause is probably not necessary.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, no. Okay, Skittle is fucking bowling.
Yeah, no, it says the Skittles candy is named after...
Before it was...
the sport of the same name. Yeah, it's just lawn bowling.
Yeah, it's like fucking wacky. It's the wacky British name for bowling.
Yeah, of course, clippity clops are
Care for Skittle.
Yeah.
Like some fucking, fucking whatever sing-song horse shit they call.
British listenership just went down. That's fine. They were barely people.
I don't think we had anybody there who like...
Honestly, no. Very big in Saudi
Arabia.
Arabia.
Any listeners there?
In England, I don't know. I never paid attention to them anyway.
Do you think the Saudi Arabians will approve of this episode?
Hell yeah, they will. Give me $2 billion.
Skittle, yeah. Yeah, but they're more like bottles instead of pins.
Oh, so it's just...
So it's like early... So
wow, okay, so it's street bowling, you mean?
So Skittle
We've just got Jaws.
Skittle is to bowling as cricket is to baseball, it would appear.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
But yeah, no, we had no fucking idea that that's what a fuck... Why the fuck would they name a candy that? A candy that is not... These candies are not even pin-shaped.
Ball-shaped? I don't know.
Like, what the fuck?
Really,
like, how many other fucking... That doesn't make any fucking... That makes no
that's
sense.
Stupid. Stupid. I don't know.
Okay.
And Skittles are fine anyway. I don't mind calling Skittles a stupid candy. It doesn't matter. Anyway.
I mean, Skittles are fine.
They're fine.
They're okay. You ever had anybody do that horseshit thing with, like, we're making Skittles vodka? You remember that?
Oh, where they put a bunch of Skittles in vodka?
That was like...
I heard about it. I've never been around anyone that actually did it. Or been to a party, I'll say, that anyone did it.
That was a bad millennial phase that happened when we were in our early 20s, right?
Putting just a bag of Skittles?
Got spread around by, whatever the fuck we used at the time.
God,
that wasn't TikTok.
Gross. That sounds like it would start calcifying the vodka.
You know what it tasted like? It tasted like you fucking poured some vodka on some Skittles.
It doesn't sound bad, honestly.
There was just like a slight twinge to it. No matter how long you left it at rest, it wasn't really like a...
That's pretty gross.
Whole thing. Remember, there were like vodka fucking... God, I sound old.
Just get the vodka that tastes like something else. I don't know, peaches and cream.
Fucking drink the vodka, pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry.
You're doing shots of them anyway. What does it matter past 10 seconds?
The whole point of vodka is that you can't taste it, and it just goes into your system and makes you not feel.
Speaking of which, how was that vodka from Idaho I got you? Was it good?
I mean, once again, fucking vodka.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've got some, but I never drank it. I'm not a vodka drinker.
I also...
It's supposed to be made from Idaho potatoes, so I was like, all right, sick. Let's see how it is.
In regards to just vodka in general, so I had a, you know them weird little taster shot glass things that are like the little mini bottles?
Oh, yeah.
You buy them like that, or like, like the little shot girls run around and like give you them at the bars and stuff.
Yeah,
but like, I
haven't seen one of those
because I knew some people that used to, work for a fucking liquor company. Was in possession recently.
What a nice friendship to have.
Yeah. Was in possession recently of like apparently like one of the best vodkas on the fucking planet in one of those little containers. And I tasted it. And I didn't fucking just like, slam it down. But, I like fucking let it dwell for a moment. And you know what, Jordan?
It tastes like vodka?
It tasted just like the shit you got from Idaho. No difference there.
Well.
It's fucking vodka.
Yeah. I mean, but is it something that like... I don't know, man. Are you supposed to sip vodka like you would a whiskey, like fine whiskey?
See, I can't.
Can you do that?
I can't. No,
because I can tell. Like, it took me a long time, but I can tell the difference between a shitty whiskey and a good whiskey over time.
I mean,
but not in a shot.
Like Kachka infusions are good. Like horseradish vodka is fucking amazing.
They're what was it? Barley? I think barley.
I haven't tried that.
Oh, it's good shit.
It's fantastic.
Barley,
makes me angry though. That's not good. But
no, you shouldn't drink.
Yeah.
Shut up. Drink your beer.
but yeah, no, it's all. I think the only thing that makes HRD undrinkable is that it can't go down your throat quickly because it's thick.
Yeah, but it doesn't expire. Well, anyway.
Sorry, what the
let's
fuck?
finish
What were we
this
even
off,
talking about?
because you got a time frame too. All right, yeah, let's finish this off. So
I got
anyway,
fucking 10 whole minutes, boy.
we were talking about Skittles. Now,
why the fuck did they name?
well, it's okay because they also
It doesn't make it
him,
any less confusing.
No,
that whole
they
tangent
also
we
called
went
him
on, by the way.
Samson Brass. It's because they threw him down an alley and hit some bottles with them. I don't know. And by the way, Skittles had his middle names D'Orsay and Tennyson because his godfathers at his christening were English poet Lord Tennyson and French artist Alfred D'Orsay. And it was a really big deal at the time that Dickens had such famous people be godparent to his child. It'd be like if I had a kid named Alfred Danzig Batman Rabel or something. And they were the most famous two people I could think of at the time.
Danzig Batman.
In December of 1845, Dickens became the editor and founder of the Daily News, which was a newspaper created expressly to oppose the very right-leaning Morning Chronicle. Dickens fucking hated the Tories, bitched about them constantly. But he used this newspaper as a platform to strike against unfair work practices and report on sweatshop labor. Now, while his time at the paper only lasted 5 weeks due to other commitments and his inexperience in editing, the paper would run until 1960, though under a different name. And although Dickens had long left at this point, the paper would be a major platform for the women's suffrage movement in the early 1900s. Now, believe it or not, with all of Dickens's virtue signaling about, well, why aren't we helping why aren't we helping the less fortunate? He actually put his money where his mouth is. He'd gotten enough letters from prostitutes over the years that he wrote to a friend of his, a countess, with whom he shared a wish for wanting
What's the number of enough letters from prostitutes?
I don't know.
I was just wondering if you had a specific.
But honestly, probably in the hundreds.
Okay.
I mean, if we have 14,000, there's got to be over 100, over 200 over the course of his life. Has to be. So he got in touch with the countess, with whom he shared a wish for wanting there to be a safe place for prostitutes to be. The result was called the Urania Cottage and was opened in November of 1847. Not only did it provide food and shelter for them, but also taught women how to read and write as well. The place was practically run by Catherine Dickens's younger sister, Georgina, who remained a teacher at the cottage until 1859, but eventually had to leave so she could get married. While the Urania Cottage was still in its conceptual stage, Dickens would have his 7th child on April 18th, 1847. A boy named Sidney Smith Haldeman Dickens, but who was also...
Whoa! Haldeman Dickens? Fuck, dude. Fuck. Seriously?
Look, it's right here.
Hold a man Dickens.
Haldemand.
That's hold a man's Dickens.
Haldeman.
Fucking clap them cheeks and don't let go, brother.
But whom his father called the Ocean Spectre. It's still a bad nickname. Here's my boys. Skittles, fucking Ocean Spectre, fucking Monkey Man. I don't know, like weird shit.
What the fuck? Hold a man Dickens.
Didn't even pass by that on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th read. Anyway, Charles Dickens would go on to produce 2 more stories in the 1840s.
Damn. I'm sorry. That's really
no,
good.
That's fair. Yeah, no, thank you for that. I would have
fucking
totally not gotten that.
Terrific.
So, 2 stories, Dombey and Son and David Copperfield. While Dombey and Son was hitting the newsstands and before David Copperfield would even begin, Dickens's little brother Augustus was having trouble at the bank he worked at. You see, Augustus's mentor, Thomas Powell, started forging checks as well as books that were quote-unquote signed by their authors. When the bank they worked at found out about this and approached him, Powell attempted suicide with an overdose of laudanum, opium. Wow. Because of this, the bank decided not to press any charges. However, Powell took the opportunity to run away to America with his family, and it's possible that his suicide attempt was a farce. But when he got to America, Powell published a book called The Living Authors of England just 6 months after his arrival. Among the 38 subjects was a chapter on Charles Dickens, whom Powell had known personally through Charles's brother Augustus. Now, pretty much the whole thing was made up, but the thing that seemed to piss Charles off the most was that Powell said he based the character of Paul Dombey, the main character of his recently concluded Dombey and Son, on one of the owners of the bank that Powell was accused of stealing from. This really did piss Charles off more than anything else, probably because the nice, sensible Paul Dombey was likely inspired by a man named Christopher Huffam, who was the godfather to Charles. What's wrong with that one? Huffam? Christopher Huffam?
Hey, Huffam.
That's it? All right, well, hey, man, they can't all be holding dicks, whatever. He was the godfather to Charles Dickens and who helped him get by when his parents first went to Marshalsea Prison. I think for a time when he was a fucking 12-year-old career worker, he was a dude that he was living with for a time, I think. So Charles writes a letter to several publications in New York City where Thomas Powell is living, calling him out publicly as a forger and a thief. However, the evidence to Powell being a forger and a thief is all the way back in England. So Powell, knowing that it would possibly take years for the evidence to make its way to an American court, he sues every single one of the magazines that published Dickens's attack, saying the claims are unfounded libel. And Dickens loses every fucking case, eventually having to settle out of court just so that Powell would make the lawsuit stop. Just a little while after this, on December 2nd, 1848, Charles's elder sibling, Frances Elizabeth Dickens, died at the age of just 38 from tuberculosis. Her son, a sick little cripple who's thought to have been the inspiration behind Tiny Tim, died just a year later and was buried beside her. Not long after, on January 16th, 1849, Henry Fielding Dickens, the eighth child to Charles and Catherine, would be born. He was named after Henry Fielding, Charles's favorite author. He was going to name him after author Oliver Goldsmith, but he knew if he called his own kid Oliver that people would tease him for being named after Oliver Twist, so he didn't go with that one. That would be a pretty... I understand that. Henry's nickname was just Mr. H, by the way, which it's not all that bad considering the other ones. Go get your son Ocean Spectre. Where's Dick Diddler? I don't know. It just Mr. H is fine. Anyway, when we pick back up on the next episode, we will begin with one of Charles Dickens' biggest hits, David Copperfield. My sources today, charlesdickensinfo.com, Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens, Signet Classics, 1980, Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, None Such Publishing Limited, 2006, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, Watermill Press, 1980, and Wikipedia.
Dude, okay. Okay, so how old is he at this point?
At this point?
Is he still in his 30s?
Probably. Hang on one second.
His oldest sibling was 38?
Yeah.
Who just died?
Oh, then yeah, so he's 36 if that's the case.
Dude.
Yeah. He's not an old dude. Like
this dude gets up to shit.
I know. There's a lot to go over. I thought that the information on him was going to be long because of all of the classics he'd written. No, man, this dude got up to a lot. I mean, you even have to name your kids something shitty just so that they're remembered. And by the way, end of next episode, which is the last of the Charles Dickens, this should be 3 parts, but it's not. I am going to go over what happened to all of his kids because, boy, are they interesting too. Just something about money really throws people for a loop.
I mean, this man 100% had undiagnosed ADHD.
You like to diagnose people with shit. You tried it with Philip K. Dick and with Emily Dickinson, but you know what, man?
Why not, man?
I don't know. I think he's just an asshole. Who else owns a bird like that?
I mean, yeah.
A raven? An eagle?
I mean, most of the shit you would attribute to my ADHD, you'd be like, yeah, Caleb's just an asshole. So
yeah. See what I mean?